So it's day 9, I think, of trying to practice stuff. Wait, it's as you can see, it has gotten it's evening right now. Anyways, where was I? Did you understand a single word? The manager asked the parents. Is he playing a fool with us? For God's sake, cried out, cried the mother, already in tears. Perhaps he's very sick and we're upsetting him. Great, great. Okay, then. I read that. My bad. Damn, I read a lot. Okay. But at Gregor's first words, the manager had already turned away, and now he looked back at Gregor over his twitching shoulders with pursed lips. During Gregor's speech, still. He was not. He was not still for a moment, but he was moving away towards the door without taking his eyes off Gregor, but really gradually, as if there was a secret ban on the living room. He was already in the hall, and after the sudden movement, with which he finally pulled his foot out the living room, one could have believed that he had just burned the sole of his foot. Damn. In the hall, however, he stretched out his right hand towards the staircase, as if some truly supernatural relief was waiting for him there. Gregor realized that he must not, under any circumstances, allow the manager to go away in this frame of mind, especially my top of this, especially if this position in the firm was not to be placed with the greatest danger. His parents did not understand all this very well. Over the long years, they had developed the conviction that Gregor was set up for life at his firm, and in addition, they had so much to do nowadays with their present troubles, that all foresight was foreign to them. But Gregor had his foresight. The manager must be held back, calmed down, convinced, and finally won over. The future of Gregor and his family really depended on it. If only the sister had been there. She was clever. She had already cried while Gregor was still lying quietly on his back. And the manager, this friend of the ladies, would certainly let himself be guided by her. She would have closed the door of the apartment and talked him out of his fright in the hall. But the sister was not even there. Gregor must deal with it himself. I think there's some. I might actually be haunted because I could have swore that I heard someone walking there. Anyways, I shall continue. Without thinking that without thinking that as he didn't know anything about his present ability to move, and without thinking that his speech possibly, indeed probably, had once again not been understood, he left the wing of the door. He left the wing of the door, pushed himself towards through the opening, and wanted to go over to the manager, who was already holding tight to the handrail with both hands, and now and the with both hands, and the landing of in a ridiculous way. On the landing in the ridiculous way. Already 6 minutes. Shit. But as he looked for something to hold on to, okay, I realized something. I can just read it aloud anywhere else. I should talk to you. That was the whole point of this thing, talking in front of the camera for 10 minutes. The point was to talk to the camera about stuff to improve on. And reading a book is improvement, but I could do that anywhere else. I will do it after the recording ends. But since I started, I should just end it today. From tomorrow, I will inshallah make a script and follow it. And tomorrow I probably will get an email about my allocation of the stuff I need to do in the ceremony and stuff. Anyways, let me continue. But as he looked for something to hold on to, with a small scream, Gregor immediately fell down onto his numerous little legs. Scarcely had this happened when he felt for the first time that morning a general physical well-being. What? Anyway, I didn't get that. The small limbs had firm floor under them. They obeyed perfectly, as he noticed to his joy that strove to carry him forward in the direction he wanted. Right away, he believed that the final, what is that word? Amelioration of all his suffering, and immediately at hand. But at this very moment, when he lay on the floor, rocking in a restrained manner, quite close and directly across from his mother, apparently totally sunk into herself, she suddenly sprang right up, with his arms spread apart, and his fingers extended, with her cried out, "Help, for God's sake, help!" She held her head bowed down, as if she wanted to view Gregor better, but ran senselessly back, contradicting the gesture, forgetting that behind her stood the table with all the dishes on it. When she reached the table, I need to put some seasonings on how I said the words. By seasoning, I mean accents to how. Yeah, I need to work on that. With the dishes on it. When she reached the table, she sat down heavily on it, as if absent-mindedly, and did not appear to notice that all that next to her coffee was pouring out onto the carpet and full stream from the large overturned container. Mother, said Gregor quietly, and looked over to her chair. The manager momentarily had disappeared completely from his mind. By contrast, at the sight of the flowing coffee, he couldn't stop himself, snapping his jaws at the air for a few times. At that, his mother screamed all over again, hurried from the table and collapsed onto the arms of his father, who was rushing towards her. But Gregor had no time right now for his parents. The manager was already on the staircase. His chin level was banister, His chin level with the banister. The manager looked back for the last time. Gregor took an initial movement to catch up to him if possible, but the manager must have suspected something. Suspected something because he made a leap down over a few stairs and disappeared, shouting, "Huh?" Still shouting, "Huh?" That sound echoed through the entire stairwell. Now, unfortunately, this flight of the manager also seemed completely to bewilder his father, who earlier had been relatively calm. For instead of running after the manager himself, or at least not hindering Gregor from his pursuit, with his right hand, he grabbed onto the manager's cane, which he had left behind with his hat and overcoat on the chair. With his left hand, his father picked up a large newspaper from the table and stamping his feet on the floor, he set out to drive Gregor back into the room by waving the cane and the newspaper. No request of Gregor's was any use. No request would even be understood. No matter how willing he was to turn his head respectfully, his father just stomped all the harder with his feet. Across the room from his mother, across the room from him, his mother. This is really complex. Anyways, 10 minutes has passed. I will keep reading it until I feel like it's a good place to stop, and I think tomorrow I'll make a script and talk about it. Bye.